Hello, and welcome to another episode of Stories About Stories. This week, this month, this time, we are going to be doing the story Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's actually just Dracula, but Bram Stoker's the author, and it's how everybody always talks about it. So, if you haven't already, there was a mini episode before this where I mentioned that we were going to do mini episodes, frankly. And also that if you have any questions, comments, corrections, that I would mention it in either future episodes or future mini episodes. So there's that. Keep that in mind. Additionally, we have somebody who joined the Patreon to keep this thing going. Her name is Megan D. Big shout out to her. And you can see again in this series a video that was part of her reward for donating, which is discussing how I get actually one of the puppets we're going to be seeing today. So if you're interested in, what was it, car horn? If you're interested in donating, there's a link below. And let's see if we can get this show on the road. Bram Stoker's Dracula. Classic, Victorian, has a lot of things going for it, has some things that aren't. The two big things you need to know before you start reading Bram Stoker's Dracula is basically at any point, if you are bored, you can actually just skip whatever you're reading, because probably he's doing a big, in-depth, gross description of like, oh, the rolling hills of whatever. Doesn't matter. It's him being Victorian. It's kind of bending to the genre at the time. Second thing. He has this thing where he just needs to write out everybody's dialect, and it's annoying. It's annoying. I can't read it. I mean, I could read some of it. Anything that was like a thick Cockney accent, oi. I mean, that was one thing. But he liked to really, there's phonetic spellings and apostrophes everywhere and all sorts of stuff like that. Basically, anytime that happens, you can avoid that too. The only time you can't is with Van Helsing. Van Helsing, I always thought he was German, but he's from Belgium, and while he's not spelled out, his accent, it is really annoying to read. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Who's Van Helsing, you say? I will tell you. Let's start this. There's a young man. His name is Jonathan Harker. His name is Jonathan Harker. Hi, Jonathan Harker. He is a lawyer or a real estate something or other clerk. He has gone off to Transylvania. You'll never guess who's in Transylvania. He goes off to Transylvania. There is a gentleman there who wishes to purchase some land in London, or England, as the case may be. And this junior guy has gone off to let him, work out the paperwork and stuff like that. We get a lot of passages of really boring travel diary, because that's what this is in. This is in the format of a diary that we're reading from him. Blah, 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 this is great, blah, blah, blah. As he's going along, he is noticing that people are starting to act a little strangely. Like, don't go over there, and, oh, the devil is coming. Stuff like that. Eventually he makes it to what turns out to be Castle Dracula. And people have given him like garlic and crosses and stuff like that, and he's just like, oh, this is very strange. Okay. He meets a guy. The guy is, of course, Dracula. He's old, ugly, very strange looking, very strange. Red eyes, long teeth, and I'm like, not getting the hint? Okay. He says, come in, come in. It's a very strange house. There's places that Jonathan Harker is not supposed to go to. And I think we've learned this lesson, haven't we? We learned this with Bluebeard. Always be concerned about a house that you're in where someone says, you can go everywhere, but that room. But he doesn't know that. I don't know. They spend some time there. Jonathan Harker is increasingly concerned about the goings on in the household. He sees some weird stuff like, oh, I don't know, Dracula climbing down the wall sideways. on the outside of the castle. That's strange. Yes, it is. And he comes across, he falls asleep in one of those areas he's not supposed to, and 3 beautiful women appear and then try to suck his blood. Back, women, back, back. This shit's going down. As the diary progresses, Jonathan Harker's like, you know what, this is bad, this is super bad, and I think that I'm probably going to die here. That's the impression I'm getting from this whole situation. He also notices that Dracula has had some locals box up about 50 boxes of dirt, which is implied that it's graveyard dirt, or, wherever. And it gets shipped off, presumably to England. But why? But why? Doesn't matter. Dracula also leaves. Harker is like, pretty sure I've been left here to die by this weird guy who also, I have discovered during the course of things, sleeps in a coffin, climbs down walls, totally cool with women trying to suck my blood. Did that weird thing with them, says stuff like, I don't eat, I don't drink wine, etc. So yeah, that's Jonathan Harker's diary. The last thing we read from him is him saying something along the lines of, goodbye, farewell, if I don't make it, blah, blah, blah. Who is he addressing when he says that? Well, we come across diary number 2, which is diary of Mina Harker. Wait, her name's not Harker yet. Mina Murray. By the way, shout out, this is the puppet that I got from Megan. It is some vintage French perfume, the real stuff, and it smells good. I think you're gonna like this, because you're gonna get this after I put this online. So, Mina is also keeping a diary. She's keeping a shorthand diary. And she's talking about her time visiting her friend, Lucy. Lucy. Very bright and sparkly Lucy. And she's telling essentially a story for herself, but also for Jonathan, who's away off the sea, and he'll come back and then they'll get married. Little do you know. We hear from Mina that Lucy, well, actually Lucy writes her letters and Mina writes her letters, so we're actually getting to read all the letters too. Apparently, three guys have asked Lucy to marry her. Marry them. She's accepted only one, but apparently all 3 happen in like the same day. One of them is a lord. So he's gonna be a lord. He's nobility of some kind. Surprise, surprise, that's the one that she's decided to, oh, here we go. Oh, lord. Woohoo, fancy. Is a lord. This is the one she's decided to marry. His name's Arthur. There's an American. He doesn't get a puppet because he's essentially wandering around being American. His name's Quincy. That's super great. And he speaks in a very American accent. Little ladies. Oh, on the prairie where the horses are. Yeah. Thanks, Bram Stoker. And then there's Dr. Seward. I don't know what his first name is. I think it's Jonathan, but then there's way too many Jonathans, so we're gonna stick with Seward. And he's an interesting character. Unlike Arthur the Nobleman and Quincy the American, we get to hear Dr. Seward's diary too. Dr. Seward keeps his diary in a phonograph, so he records his voice on a phonograph on these wax cylinders. Very old school, because it's the Victorian era. What's so interesting about Dr. Seward? What's so interesting about it? What's he a doctor of? Well, it turns out that he lives next to, or within the same building as, an insane asylum. Because Of course we do. I mean, naturally. He also has like some kind of addiction to opiates, but we only mentioned that once, and so probably it's not important. He has an interesting patient. His interesting patient is named Renfield. Boop, boop, boop. Renfield, why do you have such a tiny little puppet? Oh, it's because I look like I have wings. Really? Why is that important? Looks a lot like flies. That's why it's important. Really? What's the deal with flies? Why do you care about that? Oh, let me show you. It goes like this. Here, you pretend to be me, okay? You ready? Oh. Yes. Renfield eats bugs. Not just bugs. He eats a lot of things. He eats bugs, he eats flies, and then the flies get eaten. He carefully feeds those to spiders, and then he takes the spiders, he carefully feeds those to birds, and then he asks Renfield, it's like, oh, can I have a cat? What? I just want a cat. I think it'd be really healthy for me to have a cat. Coincidentally. What about the birds in your room? Oh, it'd be cool. Don't worry. Don't worry. Not a problem. Yeah, no, you don't get to have a cat. Fine. He proceeds to eat all the birds raw. Because, you know, he's crazy, and he also says things like, the blood is the life. Where's that familiar from? Anyway. Lucy. Lucy does not marry Dr. Seward, does not marry the American, is now engaged to Arthur the Lord. She's very excited. And all these men still love her. That's great. She, of course, is engaged to Jonathan Harker, who has been sending her letters, but they're weird letters. Very strange, very non-committal about when he's returning, and also not specific, and also kind of weird, etc. and so forth, almost as if somebody else has coerced him into writing them. So she's a little concerned. Alright. So we've got Lucy's letters, we've got, and sometimes her diaries. We've got Mina's diary, we got Jonathan Harker's diary. What else? Oh, we got Dr. Seward's diary. What else are we going to have? Newspaper articles. We discovered that a strange ship has come to port by Lucy's house. It shows up, and it is oh so conveniently filled with dead people. Like you do. The captain has strung himself to the wheel, and he has the ship's log on him, which we also get to read. And the ship's log basically talks about the terribleness of everybody dying on board, and how there's a demon on board and so on, who's killing everybody. When the ship comes to land, we find out that a large black dog has jumped off of it, and is possibly off killing animals and being wild, but nobody sees it again, so it's probably nothing. So that's the end of that article. Oh, and then, what was the ship carrying? Was it, oh, it was 50 boxes of dirt. How strange. Somebody comes to pick that up, and the dirt goes off to wherever, to a nearby chapel, castle thing, which just so happens to be next door to the insane asylum. How strange. Renfield, there you go. Renfield starts doing some crazier things like, oh, my master, he's here, he's here. Oh, that craziness. Alright. Lucy has, since a child, had a problem with sleepwalking. Strangely, right after the ship shows up, she starts sleepwalking even more, to the degree where she has left her room in the middle of the night, wearing all white and junk like that, has shown up in a nearby graveyard. Mina wakes up, goes to look for her, and there's a strange, dark, mysterious figure leaning over... strange, dark, mysterious figure leaning over Lucy and... nomming on her. Mina's like, oh, whoops, rescues her. But Lucy is now very lethargic, very tired, very sad. It only gets worse night after night after night. She feels so tired. She keeps sleepwalking. We see in her diary that she's having nightmares about bats and junk like that. It gets to the point where Dr. Seward and everybody else are severely worried about Lucy's health. And Dr. Seward's like, well, I'm trying my best here, but you know what? There's somebody who definitely knows what to do. Definitely. And I think that he's really the one that we need to be talking to. And that is where he gives a call to his buddy, Dr. Van Helsing. Dr. Van Helsing is... oh, golly. Okay. Wait, does that look... oh, it's a flower. Yeah. Dr. Van Helsing is from Belgium. He is very strictly about the science, and possibly he would say things like the science. He has a very annoying accent, and so on. And he's very much of the, if the impossible is ruled out, clearly what must be left is the truth. So he's looking at the whole situation. The second he sees Lucy, he's like, okay, we need to do a blood transfer immediately. So of course they do the healthiest imaginable blood transfer in the known universe. Not checking blood types or anything like that, because why bother? But he has Dr. Seward, just hooks her right up, and they share blood. And she looks so much better after that. Amazing. And he's like, I have a lot of theories. I'm very concerned about this. I am going to go back home and read up, because I'm certain this whole situation is done. Strangely, it's not. Like the next day, she's all like unhealthy again. He has to come running back, and they end up doing twice more these three times more of these transfusions. The American gets pulled in, Van Helsing gets pulled in, and then finally Arthur, her actual fiance, gets pulled in. And every time they give her blood, and it's just like it's helping, but it's not helping. Mina's very concerned. However, in the meantime, she has received a letter from a nun. A nun out in, I don't know, Transylvania or whatever. The nun says, yeah, okay, pop it for that. The nun says, BTW, we found this guy. His name's Harker, and he's super ill, but he's calling for you, so maybe you should come and visit. She's like, oh shit. So she's like, well, the situation with Lucy's kind of dire, but we have all these great people around. I'm certain that'll help. I have total time to go fetch Jonathan, marry him while we're out there, aww, and then come back. It's totally fine. It'll work. That's what she does. She goes off to go get Jonathan. When she sees Jonathan, he's like, I don't really remember a lot of what happened, but here's my diary. Don't let me read it. In fact, don't you read it. Nobody read it. I'm certain it's filled with crazy things. She's like, okay. So she's out of the picture for a while. They're both out of the picture for a while. They don't know what's going on. We get a lot of Seward's diary. And of course, Lucy's diary and letters. This is how we find out that, sadly, unfortunately, tragically, Lucy totally dies. Whoo, surprise. Everyone is extremely heartbroken and sad. Even Van Helsing, who very weirdly is like, I loved her too. It's like, you knew her for like 2 days. Okay. He's like, okay, but here's the deal. I think that my theory has been borne out. And everyone else is like, what theory? He's like, the theory I totally can't tell you about. It's really important for me to keep it all in my head this entire time and not reveal it, because you would all think that I was crazy. He's like, but the time is now. The time is now. And basically, we have to go over to her grave, stake her heart, cut off her head, and fill her mouth with garlic. And everyone's like, no. Desecrating the dead? She's already like this. No, we're not gonna do that. He's like, okay. This is why I didn't want to tell you any of this stuff. So they end up doing like this whole like rigmarole of proving that she is a vampire. It turns out that, a strange, beautiful lady, which the local parlance of accents that Bram Stoker is, the bloofer lady, has been going around stealing small children to suck their blood. And it's like, no, we gotta deal with this sooner rather than later. So he eventually proves to everybody, like, that, oh no, he's totally a vampire. And yeah, they break into her coffin or whatever and kill her. Again. Oh, but in the last moments, she looks pure and innocent. At last, as if her soul had been released. Okay. Mina and Jonathan come back into town. Woohoo! Yay! Okay. Yay! Only to discover that Lucy, her best friend, has totally killed it. Been killed. Van Helsing is concerned. He's concerned because clearly the demon person, Dracula, the demon person who killed Lucy is still out there and could in fact make more vampires. Gotta track him down, gotta kill him. Not really sure where to start. Mina is wandering around and she looks at her own diary. She looks at Jonathan's diary. She looks at all these newspaper articles. She looks at Lucy's stuff. And she's like, you know what, there's something here. And so she actually helpfully goes through and collects everybody's material. She even collects Seward's diary. And types it all out and puts it into chronological order. And we discover actually that what we are reading at that moment is what Mina put together. And what we're going to continue reading is what Mina put together. Which actually makes this found footage. It's like the beginning of that genre. You know, the Blair Witch Project, sure, they did for movies. This was the first thing. This was in book form. This is actually incredibly amazing, and part of the reason why Dracula is such a good book in terms of history and story. But she puts it all together and hands it out to everybody, and everyone's like, okay, well, this is a problem, and we understand that we have to find those boxes of dirt, and then we'll put the body of Christ, Catholic, body of Christ into all these boxes, and that will make the dirt holy, and then we can officially kill Dracula because he'll have nowhere else to run to. They go to the castle thing or the chapel where all the boxes are. They count up. Whoops! Turns out there is only 29 of them left. Means that some of these other boxes have been moved around. There are other bolt holes that Dracula could go to. So there's this whole rigmarole where they're going to go and they're going to destroy all this, and so there's going to be a big search. But everyone looks at Madame Mina and says, "Now that you've done all this stuff, like putting together all this information and being super useful and everything, it's time for you to back out. It's time for you to back out and be safe." And she's like, "But okay, because I am but a weak and feeble woman. I will follow what the men say." And the men are like, "Excellent, good," because we all love her. Everybody who gets loved by these guys tends to die, so I don't... whatever. So she goes over there. All the guys are going to go out, they're going to go mess up the things. Seward gets a note from one of his guys saying, like, you need to go see Renfield, like, immediately. Renfield has met Mina by this point. And also thinks that she's amazing, and she's kind of like a wonderkind in this. I mean, everybody thinks she's amazing. Renfield thinks she's amazing. And he says to Seward, "Look, you need to let me out tonight of the insane asylum. I'm totally sane, but I just need to not be here." He's like, "Okay, sure. That's what you do with crazy people. You let them out." Just went, "Oh, I'm totally sane." "Yeah, okay." He's like, no, but seriously. I can't really explain why right now, but you need to let me leave. Nah. It's like, okay, fine, but I can't be held responsible for what's going to happen. It's kind of thing that, you know, when people say that, you have to be kind of concerned about what's going to go on. But are these guys? No. Whatever. So off they go, and they accomplish, you know, the first part of their task. It's, you know, excellent. You know, they get those 29 boxes, and they get some hints about the other boxes, and they come back, and Mina, for whatever reason, is sleeping really heavily. Looks a bit pale. She's probably just stressed about all her menfolk out and doing stuff. And then, you know, oh, they find more boxes. They find more. Oh, that's so great. They count. Oh, they get everything. What's with Mina looking so pale? It's very strange. And until finally, there's all accounted for but one. Well, it's fine. It's fine. They can just figure that out. Oh, hey. What's wrong with Renfield? Everybody comes. It's the middle of the night. Everybody goes running into Renfield's room because it turns out that his face is all bloody and his back's broken. What? Well, as is revealed, he says, well, now I can finally talk about this. I didn't mean to, but, well, my master came, and he said, let me in, and I really tried not to, but then he's like, I'm going to promise you all this stuff, like eternal life and so on, and so I said, okay, come in. But that was a bummer, because it means that he really wanted to go suck Madame Mina's blood, and now this happened, and I'm really bummed out about it, and then he tried to kill me. Everyone else is like, shh, 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 shh. They go running up. They go running up to the guest room that Mina and Jonathan Harker in. Jonathan Harker, asleep. Asleep as if dreaming as if somebody put him into a sleep. Because probably somebody did. Madame Mina is sitting up in bed in her beautiful white night clothes. Everybody's seeing her naked, basically, by Victorian standards. Is sitting up in the bed. Her arms are stretched out. And who is this? Ah! Dracula has cut open his chest and is forcing her to drink his blood. One of the other interesting things about Dracula, about the book, is really taking advantage of the idea of the vampire being not just the other, but the sexual other. You know, there's a lot of penetration going on. There's a lot of taking of young women. There's a scene earlier in the book where Jonathan Harker spots Dracula, who has become young, by the way, because he's been drinking all this blood. He spots Dracula in the street, staring after a young woman, a beautiful young woman, and then stalking after her in a sort of stalking fashion. So it's very clearly a sex thing, a sex and an inappropriate kind of sex. And so when he's busy forcing her to drink his blood, I mean, that's very much a... Ooh. And it shows. They chase him off, but now Mina is impure. And it's not because other people are blaming her as such, but literally Van Helsing takes some of the body of Christ, presses it to her forehead, and it burns her. And so she's like, I'm unclean, because she's gonna become a vampire if she dies. So now there's like a lot of chase. Everyone's got to go and kill Dracula. If they kill Dracula before Mina dies, then the whole curse is lifted. Meanwhile, Mina may not die from Dracula, and but she's probably not going to die of natural causes. As time goes on, she's getting more and more vampiric. You know, her teeth are elongating, and sometimes she has a hard look about her eyes. For all that she's trying. And of course, it's discovered that she and Dracula share like a psychic bond now. That can be accessed at sunrise and sundown, at the times of transition. This is how they know that Dracula has discovered that all but one of his boxes have been destroyed. So he's going to take that box and head back to Transylvania. Got to regroup, start over again, and then come back to kill everybody. Well, our team of dashing people and the American go off. And it's a big chase scene, actually. It's a big chase as they go from, because we find out through Mina that Dracula is on shipboard, so he's probably inside his last box as it gets taken. And so everybody's like racing ahead to the continent. They're gonna show up in the right city, and they're gonna get the box. The ship goes right past that city. And so basically, they're very much in a position where basically everybody's racing back to Castle Dracula. And they need to get to Dracula's castle before Dracula himself does. Everybody splits up. Seward and the Lord go by boat down the river, which they're pretty sure that Dracula's on. Jonathan Harker and the American, are going by horseback, following the river. And then Van Helsing and Mina are actually going and triangulating. They're actually going straight to the castle. As they're doing that, Mina, still becoming more and more like a vampire. They're in the middle of the wilderness. It's winter time in, like, Eastern Europe, so that's cold. There's wolves. On a nightly basis, Van Helsing is cutting a circle around them and smushing a holy bread into the circle so that, for instance, the vampiric women who've just appeared are like, hey, join us, hey, sister, can't get in, and she can't get out, and stuff like that. And eventually what happens is the crate is on it gets off the boat and gets onto like a carriage, and the carriage goes forth, and everybody converges on it, and they kill Dracula. The end. Not the end. I mean, there's a fight scene. There's I don't know, going on this. The American sadly dies after bravely doing something because he's an American. And then the end. Mina stops becoming a vampire. Cool. We get a little epilogue. The epilogue says 7 years later. They have a small child, which they have named after the American, so they've actually named somebody else Quincy. Mina talks about how she doesn't have the mark on her head anymore. Jonathan Harker has his hair turned completely white at some point during the story because of the fear and the horror. Both Seward and the Lord Arthur have been married now. They're married. And I mean, it's basically just a finishing up. Mina has gone ahead and put in everybody's diaries and so forth together to create the story so that should in the future this be necessary, they can once again defeat the evil that is the vampire. And the end. Again, you know, the most important things to take away from this book are the he wasn't the first one to do the sexualizing of the vampire. Actually, if you want to talk about like Victorian literature, just before this, there was the story of Carmilla, which is actually lesbian vampires, and shorter. But his big thing, it gives a lot of vampire lore. He took a lot of information from a book called The Land Beyond the Forest, which was written by a woman, and that included a lot of vampire lore and descriptions of the area. Further, we have the sexualizing of the other, and we have this found information, this use of ephemera to create a story, which is mind-boggling for the time. You know, you have dates, there are things that you have to... Oh, so good. And again, the only things you really have to ignore or skip are these overly long descriptions, particularly in the beginning of the book when he was really trying to sort of set the tone and it wasn't getting exciting yet. And anytime he tried to do accents, anytime. Honestly, with the exception of Van Helsing, you can probably skip all of those. With the exception of that, it's actually a very modern sounding book in terms of the language being used. In terms of, you know, the morals, and it's not the morals, but in terms of like Mina, everyone's all like, you are the best and perfect, and oh, my love for you, and oh, so holy and humble. It's enough to make you almost dislike Mina, except, you know, yeah, you get to read her diary, and she's clearly much more clever than everybody else in the story. So, movie-wise, actually, if you want to see a good version of this, there's a Keanu Reeves version. He's in it. Guy who played Sirius Black is in it, and girl who played Spock's mom in the most recent Star Trek reboot series, also in it. She plays Mina. Keanu Reeves plays Jonathan Harker, and Sirius Black plays Dracula. Oh, and I think Wesley from The Princess Bride plays Arthur the Lord. So, oh, and Anthony Hopkins plays Van Helsing. Really, it's a good cast. And I think it's actually the closest that you're going to get to the books without having to read the book. So yeah, give that one a shot. And if you want, if you can read this book, if you can manage to get through some of the stuff I find annoying, I think it's worth it. I think it's a good piece of literature. All right. Thanks very much, everybody, for being here for my storytelling. Thanks again, Megan D, for donating, and this will be coming your way. So you get to keep your own very excellent piece of Mina Parker. And yeah, if you like this, if you want to contribute, if you want to get your own rewards and prizes, again, the Patreon link is down below. And yeah, thanks so much, guys.